One thing about me, I know who people are in this town or anywhere, and I have this unique skill set that if I want to be friends with somebody, I can figure out a way to bring value to that person to make them want to sit down with me and have a conversation.
Hi, this is Garrett Sutton, and you're listening to the Average Joe Finances Podcast.
If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you smash the like and subscribe buttons. If you're listening to our podcast, go leave us a 5-star review. All of our links can be found in the video description or show notes below. Hey, welcome back to the Average Joe Finances Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Cavaggioni, and today's guest is Jason Griggs. So, Jason, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Thanks for having me on. Fired up to be here. Let's go.
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit before I pushed the record button and find out that you're a fellow Long Islander, right? So
Yeah.
it's always good to have another Long Islander on the show because you know what good pizza tastes like, you know what good bagels taste like, all that good stuff. So when you have things like that in common when it comes to pizza and bagels, it's already the development of a budding and beautiful relationship.
It is.
Uh,
And the best part is that nobody works harder than a New Yorker.
that's true. That might some of you guys listening might be like, hey, what you know what? Go spend some time up there and you'll see.
Yeah.
No,
It's
anyway,
definitely true.
all right, let's get on with it. Hey, so Jason, I want to start this off the same way I start every podcast episode. And myself and the audience, we would like to know more about you. So if you could share a little bit about yourself, tell us your story. Who is Jason Griggs?
All right, let's see. Grew up in Long Island, New York. I went to school at West Virginia. A little different, but loved it. I had a great experience. I played
Very
lacrosse
different.
there. Yeah. So then I went to grad school back at Adelphi. I wanted to be a PE teacher. It was instilled in my brain from my parents both being teachers. That was the route to go. So that's what I did. And then one day my buddy in Vegas, my best friend in Belmore was like, "You got to come visit me." He was going to UNLV. And he's like, "You got to come visit me out here. This place is awesome. It's wild. It's fun." I was like, I gave it a shot. And then I just kept going to visit him. And I'm like, this city is awesome. It is so much fun. I just saw like a real potential in it. And I'm just like an action guy. Like, I love fun stuff to do. And the city was really growing tremendously at that point. So I decided to move to Las Vegas in 2011. I was a phys ed teacher for a year. Hated it, hated my life of not really making any money. And I just decided I wanted to do something different. So I was coaching a lacrosse team here at Henderson. Was the best thing I ever did. Networked with so many different families and the parents and the kids, and eventually I got into real estate. And here I am today. I think it's 12 years later. I'm still doing it.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Okay, so actually, I want to backtrack a little bit.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
let's do it.
growing up on Long Island, you went to school in West Virginia. So, I got to say that experience is probably very similar to me. Like when I went from Long Island, I went to boot camp up in Great Lakes, but we didn't really get out that much, except for like our one weekend of freedom that we get at the end. My next training was down in Meridian, Mississippi. And that was like a whole different world for me, man, because I get down there and I saw like cows like in real life up close for the first time. And I'm like, what is this? And a horse with a blanket on it. And I'm like, why does this horse have a blanket on it? Because I guess it was a little chilly or something. I don't know. It was
Yeah.
crazy. And then I realized like everything was so far away where our base was to where like the rest of civilization. I was like, this is crazy. I was so used to having everything like right there where we need it. So I got to imagine like going from Long Island to West Virginia to go to school. I've been to West Virginia a couple times just passing through, but never really hung out there. But every time it felt like it's very rural and country. So what was that like to go from Long Island to West Virginia? I guess being in a school town, maybe it wasn't as big of a difference. I don't know. What was that like?
It was definitely like culture shock
Yeah.
101. Because my roommate was from Weirton, West Virginia.
Okay.
And I walked in. He's like, "My name's Jimmy Douglas. I'm from Weirton, West Virginia." And that's how he sounded. and we became best buddies.
That's
It
awesome.
was a culture shock, but I loved it. I embraced it. That not everyone is a New Yorker. They are very proud to be from West Virginia, just like New Yorkers are. But it's just like culture shock. They still think like they called us Northerners, like the war was still going on.
Oh,
Like
geez.
little things like that. The Confederate flags were flowing all over the place. They're very into politics. They are, it's just like little things. Like they ask you what kind of truck you have, and you're like, I don't have a truck. And like to them, that is like mind baffling that you
Sacrilegious.
don't have an F-150 truck. Like they just, everyone has a truck there, and it's so fun. Just like little nips and bits. But I had a great experience with it. I think
Yeah.
every kid should go away to college. They should not stay in college where they grew up. It just gives you so much of a brighter audience. And all my friends on my lacrosse team, they were all from all over the place, little towns in Maryland, Virginia. And it was just great. We got along awesome. And I had nothing but a great experience there.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. It's good to get that experience. I feel like I know for me growing up on Long Island, a lot of my friends like in this bubble, right?
Yeah.
And until you actually get out and experience the rest of the country or even the rest of the world, like going and visiting another country, like you get sucked into this bubble, man.
Yeah.
And I still have a lot of friends, and they might listen to this and get upset. Get off Long Island sometime and
I know.
go see some other places, man. There's so much more out there. Maybe the food's not as good, but hey, there's more things out there. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Long Island. I just wanted to get your experience there, what that culture shock felt like. Because I know for me personally, when I went down to Mississippi, and I'm like, I had, it was like a whole different world, man. What an experience. All right, cool. Now, moving on, we're here to talk about what got you into real estate and what you're doing in real estate. So actually, that's where I want to go right now, right? Because when you first moved out to Vegas, you were a PE teacher for a year and you hated it. You
Hated
thought
it.
that's what
Yep.
you really wanted to do, right? And then you were coaching lacrosse. And while you were doing that, you were networking, right, with all the other parents and everything. So was it something that someone said, or was it just like a trend that you saw among the other people there that made you start looking into real estate? What was it that kind of flipped that switch for you?
That's a great question. So, what I realized in when I got here was this is a very money hungry town. What I mean by that is everyone is cash hungry. There's a lot of different ways to make money here. It's very different for where we're from in Long Island. You can't just go and do a side hustle very easily. But here in Vegas, you can. So they have this industry, the bartending, the bar backing, the strip. There's a ton of strip jobs that you can get to earn cash, big cash. And so I actually got involved with that. One of the lacrosse parents offered me a position working at Excess Nightclub. It was the #1 nightclub in the world. It's still up there. It's just a mega facility at the Wynn Hotel. And the amount of money that I was making at that nightclub job, it blew me away. I was making almost $1,000 a night sometimes just bringing ice to these tables. But the best part about that job was I got to network with some of the biggest ballers that used to come to the city, and they're all in a good mood, and they're all want to talk to you, and they're just they're having a good weekend. And so I'm good at that. I'm good at network. I love talking to new people. And so I took advantage of that. So for those few years I worked there, I saved a lot of money. And then I transitioned into real estate. I made a lot of money. I bought my own first house here. And I was like, look, I like this process. It wasn't that bad. And then another lacrosse parent, I just asked him one day, I said, Tim, can you teach me how to do real estate? I knew he had a brokerage here. And he was like, you know what? You would be really good at it. And he's like, go take the test and we could have a conversation. I took the test, got it done, and I was off and running. That's how I started.
Nice. So you actually got your real estate license.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
You got your real estate license and then you decided to start investing in real estate. So when did that actually happen? When was it? Did you do like a couple deals and realize, hey, maybe I want to be on the other side of this, picking up more assets? Because you had already bought your home, you said, right? You bought your first
Yes.
place.
So the story goes, I was plowing snow with my cousin Joe in Brooklyn on Bell Boulevard. He owned a snow plowing company. And I was telling him, I'm like, look, my buddy lives in Vegas and like houses there like 50 grand. Like the market crashed. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah. And he's a savvy investor. And he was like, let's go buy a condo. I had no money at the time. So he bought one for 45 grand and he just sat on it for a year. And I was like, Joe, could I go and live in that condo since it's empty and it's right next to my best friend? And he was like, you know what? He said, might not be a bad idea. Like there were teachers weren't hiring. It was like a tough time. And I was young. I was 22. And so he gave me that was really the first investment opportunity that kind of arose. So he bought this condo and I lived in it. So as the years went on, he was like, look, let's get more of these things. And I got my license. I bought my own house. And then he was like my first client. I was just going around trying to find rentals in the best area of Henderson, $250,000 single family homes. And we partnered. And the agreement was we would go 50-50 on it. It was like 40 grand down. We put down 20 each, and then I manage them. And now the $200,000 houses were at 700,000.
Yeah, and you were getting commissions in the process, right?
I made some commission on it, and I just learned how to run rental properties. And I'm like, look, this isn't that hard. It's not a lot of work. You put the tenant in. Oops, sorry. You put the tenant in, and they stay there for a very long time. And so I was like, and so what we did, we would just save up more money and we just kept buying him. And still to this day, he's my number one partner, my top client.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you started picking up some of these rentals and then having your license, you were out there managing them and everything too. So that's pretty
Yeah.
neat. And now you were also you guys were both splitting the down payments, right?
Yeah. When I invest with partners, I just think that this agreement is so simple and it's easy and I never steer away from it. So if there's a real estate
Yeah,
deal and you want to partner, we go 50-50 across the board. If the down payment's
I like it.
100 grand, we go 50 each. And whatever profit we make, we split. This way, there's
Yeah.
no disparity. Like I
Yep.
found the deal, you put more money in. I've never had a problem with any of my partners. It's simple, it's easy, it's to the point, and I just always stick with it.
Yeah, I like it. It is simple. Sometimes simple is always the best option because there's not really much you can argue about there. If everything's 50-50 and you're both putting 50% down, it's not a matter. All the other stuff's little stuff. You could find a deal one day, your partner could find a deal the next day. So it just depends. But you're the boots on ground in Vegas, so you're probably the one that was finding all the deals anyway.
And I was, and I still do. And if anybody's going to take anything out of this podcast, rental properties are like you should not be scared of them. They're a good thing. They're an easy way to make a crap ton of money. And if you buy correctly in a good area and the home is not falling apart, it will hold up and it will rent and it will cash flow you a lot of money.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cash flow being the key word there. You got to make sure you find the right deal that's going to cash flow.
Yeah.
So speaking of, I know you also do short-term rentals, right? So is this something that you were doing kind of side by side, or did you get into that a little bit later on? What did that look like when you decided to get short-term rentals?
I got into it later on. After my fifth year in real estate, a coworker of mine was managing a lot of short-term rentals here. And he was like, look, I think you would like these because you love rental properties and these are just rental properties on steroids. And I'm like, so we did one. I did my first one with a detective in New York. He never invested in anything in real estate before. And I was like, whoa, these things they could make a lot of money. And so I just went all in on them. I'm like, if I see something that works, I go all in. So I ended up buying 8 of them. And I now have the biggest one in Vegas, and it's going to be on a reality TV show next week, which we're really excited about. I can't say which one yet, but it's going to be a big one. And it's just what has come from Airbnb and short-term rentals. There was really no one here in town promoting it and educating on it because you need licenses, and it's a tough market to get licenses on, and a lot of people do them illegally. And I just did them the right way. And I was like, this is a good little niche I could kind of talk about. And that's what I did. And it worked out awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. And just so you know, this episode's probably not going to air for 3 months.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm looking forward to, for me, at least next week, checking it out. But for those that are listening, you might have already seen it, or if not, go check it out.
Yeah, I will say this. It has to do with the UFC. We
Awesome.
partnered with them and a media company, and so you'll be seeing some really unique content in our house.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so when you first got into short-term rentals, so you actually, I'm sorry, let me backtrack a little bit. You had mentioned that there's a licensing process, right, for short-term rentals in Vegas,
Oh,
because it's very similar out here in Hawaii. Like they're very strict on short-term rental laws because a lot of people were having short-term rentals, and then there wasn't enough housing for people here just for regular rentals or
yep.
just for locals here. So that became a big problem. So they really started cracking down on that. Now it's a 30-day short-term rentals like what you can do. And they have a law it's getting pushed back on right now to make it 90 days.
Ooh,
So a lot of people are doing midterm rentals now and doing
yeah.
like stuff for traveling nurses and all that. But there are some ways to do it legally here as well. You have to get the license. You have to be in a hotel zoned area. Most of the short-term rentals are in Waikiki or in another spot called Ko'olina. And that's how people are doing it. There's a couple, even actually as a real estate agent, I recently had a deal go through for one of my clients that bought a condotel. So basically you buy a hotel room and then they list it
Yeah.
on Airbnb and stuff like that. It's one of the other legal ways to do it. So it's pretty interesting. It's the people that find the workarounds are the ones that get really successful in this business. When somebody puts a wall up in front of you, you got to figure out, how do I get over this wall? How do I climb through this wall? How do I break through this wall? And it reminds me a lot of the conversation I had with Brendan Turner, and he was on the show and he said the same thing. He said, look, he's like, the people that do really well in real estate are the ones that can overcome these challenges. He's like, I love when there's new regulations and new laws that kind of prevent me from doing things, because now I got to find a way to get around it. And when I'm the person that finds a way to make it through and no one else has, that's where I could take
Yeah,
off
you're
and
on
run.
top.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's a huge thing, man. Now, with that being said, I know that was like a mouthful. Hey, we're both from Long Island. We talk, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's all good,
So,
man.
but with all that being said, when you had to confront like the whole licensing process and get everything done to do it legally, right? Unlike some other people that are doing it illegally, they probably all got hemmed up and lost a lot. Where you did it the right way and you were able to build this empire over time. So what did that process look like? What was the legal process? How did you have to change finding deals, or what were some things you had to change in your strategy to make it work the right way?
So there's a few things to it. One, I think the rules are fair. So all mine are in Henderson. So you have the city of Las Vegas, Clark County, then you have the city of Henderson. I live in
Right.
Henderson. And Henderson came out with their rules first. And basically they were simple rules. They were only giving out so many licenses. You can't have one short-term rental, 1,000 square feet within the next one. You have to have the safety precautions up. You pay a licensing fee once a year and they come and check on it. And it's totally fair. If you just abide by the rules, you won't have any problems. So to answer your question, we bought a few and then I changed my business model because I saw a bigger opportunity with the bigger houses. People were always asking, a lot of people come visit me. And now it's just, they were like, Griggs, do you have a big house we could stay at? And I'm like, all right, now we got to get the biggest one. And so we bought a 9,000 square foot mansion. It's the
Ooh,
biggest one. That's 956 San Gabriel in Henderson, if you want to take a look at it. And that thing produces $35,000 to $50,000 a month. And we just saw an opportunity where, like, there's nothing like this. If somebody wants to come, it's 20 minutes away from the strip. There's two houses on one compound. It has a pool, basketball court, volleyball court, basement, game room, 9 bedrooms. Like, it has everything that you would ever need for a crazy vacation home. And
nice, man. What
so
was
we have
that address again?
956
Yep.
San Gabriel in Henderson.
All right. Yeah, I'm looking it up right now while we're talking.
Yeah, you'll think it's cool. And so that was my switch. I'm like, if we're gonna do this, we got to do the best ones. We got to have the biggest ones. We got to have the best ones. And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm not going backwards, doing the small ones. The small ones are good, but I want to do some big badass ones.
Nice, man. Oh man, I'm looking at some of these prices. I'm like, some of these prices are like is what you would pay for a regular house out here in Hawaii. This is crazy.
Well,
Even with the prices in Vegas going up, these are,
yeah, it's
man,
affordable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very affordable place to live,
Because I was going to say,
especially.
if you're making 30 grand a month and as you bought this 9-bedroom mansion, it's got to be, oh man, you're probably paying 12,000 a month on a mortgage payment. But no, you're not looking at
Yeah,
these prices. You're probably paying 6-7 grand.
yeah, we got a little screwed on that one because we had a refi with a DSCR company,
Okay.
but our mortgage is around 10 or
Okay.
11, and we're bringing in 30 to 40 profit.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty healthy.
It's pretty good. We got really, it's the cool part about that house is I saw an opportunity. Me and my brother saw it, but we couldn't execute what we wanted to do without somebody who was like really good with construction. So I partnered with a big flipper out here. His name is Tyler Hubbs, and he is a badass when it comes to construction and designing and remodeling. And he just took this house to like another planet. And so now he and I have a great relationship through this house, and it's the opportunities that have come from just this house. It's just been amazing. Just by owning one big house, we get so many phone calls of commercials or influencers want to stay there, professional athletes. And then we did this deal with the UFC, which was just like, I'm a huge UFC fan, and this was just like the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
To work with them, and we're gonna get a ton of exposure on the house through the show.
That's
And so
crazy, man.
it was just awesome.
Forget 30K a month. It's about to blow up. That's awesome,
Yeah, I
man.
hope so. It's a cool house. And whenever
You're
you
gonna
come
have to
here,
raise the prices there. Okay, that's like just this one deal, like how it was able to create so much exposure for you and your business, right? And also help you expand on your network, right? Because this contractor that you hired, the person that did everything, like all the work in there, you said is like top tier, right? So what was it like though, like the process of finding that person when you first purchased this house and you knew that you had to make different renovations and there was a lot of work that had to go into it? What did that process look like to find the right guy?
one thing about me, I know who people are in this town or anywhere. And I have this unique skill set that if I want to be friends with somebody, I can figure out a way to bring value to that person to make them want to sit down with me and have a conversation. And this guy, he runs a big business, doesn't really do a lot of rentals. And so I convinced him, I said, look, this is what I think it could do. And once we finished it, that's when like my expertise in the business kind of exploded because everybody does a regular Airbnbs. They're nothing, it's a hot topic, but it's nothing special. It's not like sexy. But I did this one and everything, everybody was like, holy crap. Like, how much are you making on that house? How much did it cost? Like, where did you find it? Like all these different things. But it was just a cool vision we had where it just came from people visiting. We were like, we want to build the biggest, baddest rental property in Las Vegas and Henderson, and that's what we did.
Yeah, man, that's wild. Yeah, and you did it. And now it's bringing so much more value than just the
Yep.
profits that you're making from it. Because look at all the other stuff that's coming out of that. That's fantastic, man.
I show that house to everybody. It's like the best icebreaker ever, where you're just like, hey, if you message, I've done this. I've messaged people on Instagram because if you want to do business with somebody, you can't just be like, hey, my name is Jay Griggs. I'm a real estate person. What I do is I'll invite that person. Okay, if you ever need a place in Vegas to stay, free. Like, just come out and we'll take care of it all. And people are like, holy crap. And then I become friends with those people. They don't realize it at the time what I'm trying to do, build the relationship, but that's what I'm doing. And so the more people who see the cool stuff we're doing, more relationships, more business.
Nice, man. I might have to plan a trip out to Vegas.
Dude, you're more than welcome. More than
That's awesome,
welcome.
man. Okay, so obviously to get to this point, there was a lot of growth involved, right? You didn't just go from having a couple rentals to getting a couple short-term rentals to getting this huge house without some type of growth, right? And building a team. So what did that look like as you were growing? Like, how did you know the right time to bring on the different people that you needed to bring on? Was it like specific partners that you brought on? Did you hire like VAs or outsource anything? What did that look like?
That's my biggest problem. I am like the old, if you look up solopreneur in the dictionary, my face would pop up.
Whoa, okay.
I'm not very good at delegating. I'm
Okay.
awful at it. I have to have my hand on every single little thing. But I'll tell you what, that house was a good step for me because I don't know anything about construction. I hate
Mm.
construction. It makes me queasy. I just have this fear of it. And my partner was like, I got it. Don't worry about it. Come in 6 months and it'll be done. And he was right. It was done perfectly. And so that was a good step. And then I think that if you want to expand your business with real estate, you got to have like a go-to partner every day that you work with. And so I hired an
100%.
assistant. I hired an assistant. That was like my first big step, I will say. And she's amazing. She really helps me. She keeps me on track. She brings in business for us. And it's just like having a cool teammate, like in sports. I'm a big sports guy. And you need a teammate. You can't do everything by yourself, right? You play basketball, you want to play with other people. So that's the analogy I use. But yeah, you need somebody who can help you. And so that's what I've been working on, of delegating everything. Last year, I hired a social media company to do all my social media. And that was a game changer of, look, they really broke it down easy for me. You only have to come here 2 times a month for 2 hours each time. And we're just going to film. And then we do everything else. We're going to take over all your social media and it will bring you in business. And they were right. And so it's like taking steps like that of trusting other people to do their job correctly and help you. It's a big win.
Yeah, 100%, man. So that's a lot of changes it looks like you had to deal with as you
Yeah.
were going. That might be like a Long Island mentality, man, because I always had trouble too, like letting go of certain things and delegating certain things. During my time in the military, it was a lot easier to do it there, and I had to transfer that skill set over to my businesses, right? Because a lot of times I'm like, I felt like if my hand wasn't on it, it wasn't going to get done right,
Yep.
or things like
That's
that.
me.
And when I found my current assistant that I have right now, she's my EA, right? She's a VA, but I call her my EA, right? She's my executive assistant. She takes care of everything. She essentially runs Average Joe Finances in the background.
That's awesome.
Everything is her. Like all my social media, she manages my social media. She takes care of everything. She takes care of the podcast. I just record the content and give it to her. She takes care of it. She
That's
gets the
awesome.
editing team and they get it done. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. The most I have to do is upload it to a Google Drive and then just update it in Asana. That's done. And then I'm done with it. It's fantastic, man. So finding the right people for the right job is huge. And it looks like that big house was able to give you that taste of what you
Yeah.
need to do for that. So you hired your assistant after that deal, right?
It was like during, like,
Okay.
like full time, like I used her and then I was like, okay, we're going to do this full time. But now looking back at it, I'm so glad I did it because I trained her from scratch. She had
Yeah.
no clue about anything about real estate. Now she knows how to run rental properties. She can run short-term rental properties. She knows how to manage the flip properties, do transactions. She's very good at outbound marketing and bringing in new business from off-market sellers. So all these things she knows how to do because I do so many different things and it just rubs off on somebody else. And now I'm like, okay, wow, she's like a machine that we
Yeah.
built from scratch. And that's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's fantastic. So what does your actual team look like today?
So I love talking about this because everyone thinks I have this big, crazy office with 50 people running around with suits, ties, like the boiler room thing. It's nothing like that. I come into the office, I wear my sweatsuits. I'm like super casual, but I have my partner Tom, who's my best friend from since kindergarten. We do a lot together. I have my assistant, I have my social media team, and I actually just hired somebody, one of my former players last week, and he's taking over my YouTube. So I'm just trying
Nice.
to like slowly put the pieces up, right? Put the seed in the ground. And I think that's the thing a lot of people get wrong with real estate. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to be okay putting the seed in the ground and letting the rain come and watering it. And it's going to grow a little bit, and then it will blossom down the line.
Yeah, that's what it does, man. That's what happened with my podcast. I felt like for a long time, I'm like, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore, but I just kept going at it, kept going at it, and then the podcast eventually took off. Now I'm trying to do the same thing for my social media and my YouTube as well, and trying to step those up. And I'm seeing some growth, not as fast as I'd like it to go, but it's getting there. So
It's just
those things take
consistency.
time.
It's just
Yeah,
consistency,
time
right? If
and
you keep doing
consistency.
it, you
100%.
keep doing it, you'll keep hitting enough singles. The homers will come.
Yeah, there you
Sorry
go.
for all the sports analogies, but
No, that's fine,
I
man.
am a PE teacher, so it's just in me.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to start getting those RBIs, or eventually, we got the
Yeah,
bases loaded, you're going to hit that grand slam and it's going to be game
that's it.
over. So
Yes,
no,
sir.
I love that, man. I do that stuff all the time. I use sports analogies, all that stuff. It's great. Okay, man. Look, this has been pretty fantastic. And I'd like to go ahead and transition this into something that I call the final round. It's where I'm
Okay.
going to ask you the same 4 questions I ask everybody that comes on the show, the kind of hard-hitting questions, and just see how Jason is when he's put under pressure, which I'm pretty sure I know how you'll be and how you'll respond to these questions. So if you're ready to
Okay.
go, we'll get that party started.
All right, let's do it.
All right, let's do it, man. So first question is, okay, and this one's a doozy, and I know you've been through a lot when it comes to your real estate, and you've had a tremendous journey, right? Since 2011 is when you started.
I
So,
started real estate, yeah, I think 2014, but
okay. 2011 is when you moved out to Vegas.
yes,
Something like
yep,
that. So I'm mixing up my years here. I should
it's
look
all
at my
good.
notes as I've been writing them, right? But okay, so what would you say is the biggest mistake you've ever made in real estate?
The answer to this question, I would say not in real. The first answer is this: I didn't buy enough of it. I always say
That's
I
fair.
never sold any of my rental properties, which I'm very proud of. But I think the biggest mistake I've made in my life with business and education is I didn't go to school for business, which I wish I could go back and do. I went for a totally different major, and if I could go back, I would 100% go for business because I'm so entrepreneurial now and business savvy that I feel like if I would have had some more structure and training, I would have grown a little quicker.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I like that. That's a different answer than I've ever gotten to that question. So
Really?
about
Oh,
about
that's
like
good.
wanting to go back to school for business.
Yeah,
That's great. Yeah, I like that, man. Okay, cool.
appreciate it.
All right, Jason, let's move on to the next question. And this kind of ties in, like they kind of tie into each other. You'll see that. But this next question is, what is something that you've learned that you wish you knew when you first got started?
Your network is your net worth. That
Oh,
I
there it is.
you could tattoo that on my chest. Like I am the biggest fan component of that. Like I take that to the next level. I know everybody try to be friends with as many people as possible. I think me and social media mix well together because I just love talking to people. I love helping people, and you mix the two together and good things will happen. But everything that I have is through somebody helping me. And so now I'm in the process of giving back. So that the more I would have probably done even more networking if I could have to answer the question.
I love that, man. It is such a cliche saying, but it's cliche for a reason
Yeah.
because it's the truth, right? These kinds of like sayings that you hear people say over and over again, you're like, oh, yeah, your network is your net worth, blah, 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 blah. You know, look, there's a reason why people say that because it really means a lot. And it's your network is important, right? It's the people that you know. It's those are the people that are going to find you your next deal or bring you a deal or bring you on a deal, right?
Yep.
Knowing the right people. That's why I think it's so important to get out to some real estate meetups and conferences, networking events, and just meet people and stay in touch. It's one thing to just meet somebody and exchange cards or contact information. It's the people that you follow up with. Those are the people that are really in your network, right? When
So
you say,
true.
"Hey, oh yeah, hey, how was Timmy's soccer game last week? Did you guys win the championship?" And blah blah blah. That carries a lot of weight that you remember that this other person talked to you about their kid's sporting event, right? It carries a lot of weight because it shows that you actually show interest and you care, right? So I
Yep.
think networking is the most important part of any business, whether it's real estate or anything else that you get yourself into.
Yep.
100%.
100%.
So I respect that answer. I appreciate that. Okay, cool. This next question is, again, kind of ties into all this, but do you have any tips or tricks that you would recommend to someone that is just getting started out today?
I would just buy real estate as fast and as far as it could go, meaning I would try to figure out a way to buy as much real estate as you possibly can. And I think these next few years is going to be a great opportunity with kind of this downturn that's happening a little bit. It's just like I was in it when the market was so hot and it was hard to find good deals. And now it's the opposite. So when everybody's running out of the fire, you got to run in it and be the fireman and gobble up some deals. You're going to see some people hurting for money soon. And I think it's going to be a great opportunity to just get involved in the business.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's one of the things that I'm dealing with right now as a real estate agent is I have a lot of buyers that are so intimidated by the interest rates. And I'm telling them like right now is the time because there's no competition because so many people are scared. Go in there and buy while there's no competition, and then 6 months from now refinance it when the
Yep.
rates drop back down. It's
So
it's
true.
insane. It's insane. There's
Yeah.
so many good deals to be had right now to get
I,
picked up.
I agree.
100%. Awesome, man. I appreciate that. Now, my final question, and this is just an opinion-based question, but do you have a favorite business, investing, or real estate related book or podcast or both?
So I get asked this question a lot, actually. And my favorite book is not really a real estate book, but I don't know. I
Okay.
just love this book. And I'm sure being in New York, you know who he is. But the book is called Street Justice by Chuck Zito. Do you know Chuck Zito?
I do not.
Okay. So they say Chuck Zito is like the toughest New Yorker of all time.
Okay.
He's the president of the Hells Angels. And for those of you, Hells Angels is global, but it's a motorcycle gang or club, they call it. And he ran it. And then he got into Hollywood and stuff. But this guy's life was just like on another like planet of what he went through. But what I took away from the book, I've got to meet him, and he's just such a badass. This guy is like a true leader. Like you could just see this guy, like when you have hundreds of people following you in your direction, and he's take no shit from nobody. And I took a lot away from that. And he's just a cool guy in the stories, and I recommend everybody read this book because it's so crazy. But it's my favorite book.
Nice, man. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Add it to my list. Street Justice.
Street Justice by Chuck Zito. He wrote it, but it's about his like life.
Nice.
A little different, but I don't know. I like stuff like that. It's like the most successful people sometimes are street people. Yeah, because they're out there. And being in New York, you know how it is. Like those guys know how to do business, and I don't know. I took away a lot from that.
Yeah, 100%, man. Most people that are really successful, when they attribute like good books or experiences that they've learned from, it's not necessarily the stuff that you hear everybody else talking about. It's not necessarily a book related to real estate or finances or something like that. It's something that, that sparks that entrepreneurial mindset, right? And leadership is one of those big parts of that, right? So if this book is like big on like leadership and showcasing that, it's how can you be a good leader in what you do, right? How do you get people to follow along with you? Right. So I think that's
Yeah.
important. So I'm
Yeah, I
definitely
mean,
gonna check that book out.
yeah, it's pretty interesting, like how you can just convince grown adults, hundreds of them, to go along on the path that you think is the best path. It's just incredible. That's something I try to be a really good leader. I get to coach here, and so obviously I'm the coach and I'm the leader of the team, and try to be a good role model. And that's it.
Yeah, I love that, man. Absolutely love that. Okay. So that is it for the final round. You survived as I knew you would and hit the answers the exact way I thought you would too, because just got the right mindset, man. Now I do have one more question for you. Okay. And this is the most important question of all, Jason, because people who listen to this episode, besides thinking to themselves, man, I really got to check out Long Island. It must be a great place. They're thinking to themselves that, hey, I want to learn more about Jason and what he's doing. If you have anything that you can offer our listeners as well. So, do you have a place where people can find more information about you? You have a website? What's your social media? Since I know you have a team that manages it now, where can we follow you and find out more information about the Jason Griggs?
I'm a big Instagram guy. My Instagram is at J Griggs Real Estate. And I would say 90% of the content I'm putting out now is just real estate education. And I found that when you put out education, one, people can learn from it, and then you can actually end up partnering with these people. And so I've gotten so many deals brought to me by other investors or students of mine that want to get into it. And I think getting into real estate is a scary task for some people. And I'm here to show you that I've been very successful doing it by myself in the beginning. No big crazy team, no big crazy office. I just started slowly buying rental properties. And so I was intrigued to build out a course on short-term rentals. So if you want to learn about Airbnbs and how I look for them and manage them and run the business, I started a short-term rental course, and the website is winwithairbnb.com. And I spent a lot of time on it. I did it with Brad Lee, and we've had a real good success of people who've taken it and then implemented the items into their business.
That's fantastic, man. So I'm going to make sure I have all those links in the show notes to make it easy for everybody to find it so they can just copy and paste or click away. But if you're listening to this right now and you're driving, don't do it while you're driving. You can always check it out later. But it's going to be easy. It's going to be right there. Jason, man, this has been phenomenal, dude. I knew we were going to hit it off, but I didn't think we were going to hit it off like this good, man. So this is fantastic. I'd love to keep in touch with you. I
Would love that,
really
Mike. Would
enjoyed
love
this
that.
conversation, man. I really did.
Likewise,
It
bro.
was a blast.
Likewise. I'm gonna take a picture of us and post it for us. And I appreciate it, man. You have a
Yeah,
great
for sure,
day.
man. You too. Hey, and to my listeners, thank you so much for joining me and our special guest, Jason Griggs, on the Average Joe Finances podcast. Go leave us a 5-star review and tell us what you liked about today's episode with Jason. Aloha from Hawaii, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you for making it to the end of this episode. Greatly appreciate you being here with me today on the Average Joe Finances podcast. If you haven't done so yet, make this the episode that you go leave us a 5-star rating or subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Average Joe Finances podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Have an outstanding day.